Hello and welcome back to another deep dive from the Nepali Diaspora Network.
It's great to be back.
This is the show where we take this huge stack of news, all the reports, all the whispers from the community, and we try to distill it down into something you can actually use.
Right.
We're here to connect the dots for Nepalese worldwide, whether you're in London or New York or, even just stuck in traffic in Kathmandu.
And I have to say, looking at our sources for this week, this is for January 31st to February 6th, 2026. I don't think we've ever had a week that felt this much like emotional whiplash.
Whiplash is the perfect word for it. It really is. It's a week of just extreme contrasts. I mean, on one hand, you have the diaspora just absolutely dominating on the world stage sports culture.
Right.
But on the other, there's some incredibly heavy, almost heartbreaking news about migration and legal status.
Exactly. We're looking at a record-breaking deportation flight from the U.S. We've got a security force of, nearly 340,000 mobilizing for the March elections.
It's huge.
And an economy that is somehow booming and frozen at the same exact time. It's a lot to process.
It is. So here's how we're going to tackle this. We're going to eat our vegetables before we get to dessert.
Okay.
We have to unpack the heavy news first. Immigration, the election security situation. It's vital information.
It is.
But stick with us, because we're going to end on the wins. And trust me, the cricket updates are exactly the energy boost you're going to need.
That sounds like a solid roadmap. Let's start with the story that is, likely dominating conversations in every Nepalese household in the United States right now.
Right. We are talking about the exclusive report from New York. It's about what's being called the largest single deportation flight in history for Nepalese nationals.
Yeah, this represents a really significant escalation in enforcement. According to the reports, the United States is preparing a chartered flight.
A chartered flight?
Specifically to deport 121 Nepalese nationals. It's scheduled to arrive in Kathmandu on February 21st.
Just to pause there, 121 people on one plane. That sounds like a lot, but is that historically significant?
Oh, it's unprecedented. To give you some context, the previous record for a single charter flight was around 80 people.
80? So this is a huge jump.
It's a massive increase, jumping to 121 signals that the processing machinery in the U.S. is moving much, much faster than before.
And when you dig into the details of who these people are and how they got there, the story gets really difficult.
It does.
The reporting suggests most of these individuals entered the U.S. through the Mexico border without visas.
That is the critical piece here. We aren't just talking about a flight back home. We're talking about financial devastation.
Right.
The sources indicate that many of these individuals paid smuggling networks just astronomical sums of money to get to the U.S. border. We're seeing figures between $60,000 and $75,000 per person.
Hold on. $75,000, and that's the price of a decent house in many parts of the world. How does a family in a rural village even access that kind of money?
Well, in many cases, they're selling ancestral land or taking out high-interest loans.
So, loan sharks.
Sometimes, yes. We're talking 20, 30% interest. They are betting everything on the idea that once their child gets to America, they'll earn it all back in just a few years.
So when these 121 people land in Kathmandu on February 21st, they aren't just coming back with, shattered dreams.
No, not at all.
They are returning to a financial crater.
Precisely. They are returning to debt collectors and to families who have lost their entire safety net. It's a humanitarian crisis as much as it is a legal one.
And this isn't an isolated incident, is it?
Not at all. The data shows a very clear trend. In the first year of the current U.S. administration alone, 583 Nepalese were deported.
That is a huge number for a relatively small community.
It is, and the Nepali embassy in Washington is just swamped. They issued over 400 travel documents in 2025, and the vast majority were specifically for ICE deportees.
So it's a tightening grip.
It is. We're also seeing this with the visa bond requirements, which can be anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000, and of course the indefinite pause on immigrant visa processing for Nepal.
It feels like the walls are closing in a bit. And on top of that, there was a specific warning from the embassy this week about public charge.
Mm-hmm.
Can you translate that for us?
Yeah.
Because to the average person, public charge just sounds like legal jargon. Does that mean if I break my leg and go to the ER, I might get deported?
That's a great question, and it's where a lot of people get confused. Public charge generally refers to someone who is likely to become primarily dependent on the government for subsistence.
Okay.
So the MSC is explicitly warning against using subsidized healthcare like Medicaid or housing assistance or cash aid if you don't have the specific status that allows it.
So simply using a service you thought was free could actually flag you.
Yes, using these benefits can jeopardize your green card status or future visa applications. Apparently, data showed that Nepalese nationals were ranking high among groups using these services without authorization.
Oh, wow.
And that data point actually contributed to Nepal being put on that visa bond list we mentioned. So the embassy is essentially saying, please stop. You're hurting everyone's chances.
That is a harsh reality check.
Yeah.
But, as we promised, this is a week of contrasts. So while the news from the West is tough, there is actually a beam of hope coming from the Middle East.
Yes, this is the counterpoint we needed. The UAE has just pardoned 267 Nepalese prisoners.
This is for their 54th National Day, right? But why is this such a big deal? Is it just a nice gesture?
Well, it's more than that. It's strategic. We need to remember that the UAE has actually overtaken Malaysia as the #1 labor destination for Nepalese workers.
Right.
So this gesture granting amnesty to 267 people is a huge diplomatic win. It shows the relationship between Kathmandu and Abu Dhabi is strong.
And I assume these weren't hardened criminals?
Mostly no. The sources imply many were in for minor offenses, unpaid debts, visa overstays, petty crimes that often come from, exploitative work conditions.
I mean, the criminalization of poverty.
Exactly. You lose your job, you can't pay your rent, you get arrested for debt. By releasing them, analysts estimate it restores about $1.5 million a year in lost remittances. But more importantly, it reunites nearly 300 families.
That's a massive relief. Now, before we move off migration entirely, we have to briefly mention the situation in Myanmar.
Yes, just a quick but somber note. 18 Nepalese were sentenced to prison there. They were involved in those online scam centers.
It's another reminder of the trafficking risks in the region.
It is. If a tech job offer in Southeast Asia sounds too good to be true,
It almost certainly is. It's a trap.
it is a trap. And sadly, 18 more people just found that out the hard way.
Okay, let's bring it back home to Nepal. We are officially on the countdown. The elections are set for March 5th, which is just about a month away. And looking at the security numbers, the government is, well, they aren't messing around.
They are absolutely not messing around. They're mobilizing what is essentially a small army for election security. We're looking at 338,890 security personnel.
Wait, almost 339,000? That is nearly 1% of the entire population just providing security.
It is massive. But here's the aha moment in the data that really stood out to me. Nearly half of them, about 149,000, are temporary election police.
Hold on, temporary police? You mean they're hiring civilians, giving them a uniform and telling them to guard the ballot boxes?
Essentially, yes. They're called Myadi Prahari.
Isn't that risky? I mean, handing badges and authority to people with just a few weeks of training?
It is a calculated risk, and it speaks to the desperation of the security situation. The standing forces, the Nepal Army, the police, the armed police force, they can only muster about 190,000 personnel.
Okay.
But the security assessment called for 350,000. So they've had to recruit this massive temporary force just to fill that gap.
Why is the requirement so high? Is the threat level that elevated?
Unfortunately, yes. The Election Commission has classified 3,680 polling stations as highly sensitive.
And that number's up.
It's up significantly since the last election. And if you connect this to the bigger picture, remember the Gen Z protests back in September 2025.
Right, the protests that led to the current interim government.
Exactly. During that unrest, weapons were looted from police posts, and a significant number of those weapons are still unaccounted for.
I see.
That creates a very volatile backdrop. The government is terrified of those weapons resurfacing on Election Day. So the security apparatus is essentially locking down the country to make sure the vote happens safely.
It sounds incredibly tense. And despite some weather concerns, I heard about snow in the mountains. Prime Minister Sushila Karki has confirmed this is all happening in a single phase.
Yes, she shut down the rumors about splitting the election. It is full steam ahead for March 5th.
Now, security isn't just about boots on the ground anymore, is it? It's also about what's happening on our screens.
That's right.
There was a really interesting development this week involving TikTok.
This is fascinating. TikTok has signed a memorandum of understanding and MOU with the Election Commission to fight misinformation.
That seems unexpected. Usually governments are trying to ban TikTok, not shake hands with them.
It is a landmark move, actually. It's one of the first of its kind in South Asia. Instead of fighting the platform, the Election Commission is acknowledging that this is where the voters are.
Okay.
They're partnering with TikTok to set up an in-app election center. They're going to label AI-generated content and use over 20 fact-checking partners.
So they are trying to tame the algorithm before the vote.
Precisely. And the skepticism is real. The CPN-UML party has already raised formal concerns about deepfakes targeting their leadership.
What are they afraid of? Exactly.
Well, imagine a scenario where a video surfaces 2 hours before the polls close. It looks like the party leader, sounds like the party leader, and in the video, he says, "I'm withdrawing from the race."
Oh, wow. Even if you prove it's fake later, the damage is already done.
Exactly. In an era where AI can make anyone say anything, this partnership with TikTok is going to be tested severely. It's a race between the fact-checkers and the fakes.
It will be interesting to see if it actually works. Okay, let's shift gears to the economy. And frankly, the numbers here are confusing me a little bit. We've broken a record, but I'm not sure if we should be celebrating.
We have definitely shattered a record. Remittance inflows reached 1.06 trillion rupees in just the first 6 months of the fiscal year.
1.06 trillion.
That is a 39% surge.
That is huge. And foreign reserves are up too.
Record highs, $22.47 billion in reserves. To put that in perspective, Nepal has enough cash on hand to cover 21 months of imports.
Okay.
That is an incredibly comfortable safety net.
So let me play the optimist here. The diaspora is sending money home like never before. The country is flush with cash, banks are happy, everything is great, right?
Well, here's where it gets really interesting and paradoxical. The banks are absolutely swimming in money. Deposits are up by over 400 billion rupees. But lending, it's barely moving.
Why? If the banks have money, why aren't they lending it out? And if people have money, why aren't they borrowing to start businesses?
Because the economy is stuck in what we might call the remittance trap.
The remittance trap.
Think of it like a lottery winner. Imagine a person who wins the lottery every single month. They have tons of cash, so they buy nice clothes, imported cars, a new TV.
Sounds like a good life.
It is, until the lottery stops, because that person isn't using the money to, start a factory or build something that generates income. They're just consuming.
And Nepal is in that position.
We have the cash, but no one is borrowing to invest. Interest rates have dropped to around 7.1%, which is quite low for Nepal, but businesses aren't biting because they don't see the demand for domestic production.
So we're just using that hard-earned money from Qatar and Malaysia and the U.S. to buy imported goods.
Exactly. It's a cycle of consumption, not production. It's a remittance-fueled, investment-starved economy.
Is there any plan to fix this? Because that sounds sustainable only as long as the remittances keep slowing.
There is a glimmer of hope. The World Bank just approved $95 million specifically for SMEs and women-led businesses. The goal is to fix this credit gap, to encourage banks to lend to smaller entrepreneurs who actually want to build things. It's a step in the right direction to turn that cash pile into productive capital.
That is a vital distinction. Turning cash into capital. Okay, we have covered the heavy stuff. We've eaten our vegetables. Now I am ready for dessert. Let's talk about the mood lifters.
Yes, please.
Because, frankly, the diaspora is crushing it right now. Let's start with cricket.
This is the energy shift we needed. The men's cricket team is absolutely on fire right now.
They swept the warm-ups for the T20 World Cup.
They didn't just win, they dominated. They beat the UAE by 7 wickets. Then they chased down Canada's score of 161 with balls to spare.
A massive shout-out to Asif Sheikh for that 58 runs.
He was clinical.
And this sets the stage for the big one. I don't think people realize how big this next game is.
The biggest, February 8th, Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai.
Nepal versus England.
Nepal versus England.
That gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
Nepal playing England, the creators of the game in a World Cup group opener.
It's a David versus Goliath moment. But honestly, looking at how Nepal is playing, Goliath should be a little nervous. And it's not just about the players. The reports are saying that Nepalese fans are expected to be the largest traveling contingent after India and Pakistan.
That is incredible. Imagine the atmosphere in Mumbai. The Wankhede is loud anyway, but filled with Nepali fans, it's going to be electric.
It is a unifying moment. Politics can divide us, economic theories can confuse us, but when those guys walk out onto the pitch in blue and crimson, everyone is on the same team.
Yeah.
It's a projection of soft power that Nepal hasn't really had before.
I love that.
Yeah.
And speaking of unifying the diaspora, It's not just happening in Mumbai. There's a big cultural moment happening in the UK as well.
Yes, the Nepal Music Festival 2026. It's happening at the Troxy in London on February 28th.
And the lineup is legendary. Kutumba and Bipul Chetri.
You cannot get a better representation of modern Nepalese folk sound than that.
It's amazing to see these artists selling out venues internationally. It really feels like the community in the UK is becoming this massive cultural hub.
It connects back to what we were saying about identity. Whether it's the Jun Festival coming up at Wembley or this event at the Troxy, these aren't just concerts.
They're more than that.
For the diaspora living in the UK, these are anchors. It's a way to feel home when you're thousands of miles away.
Absolutely. Speaking of the UK community, since we're talking about finding anchors there, I wanted to mention something that might be useful if you're actually in London for these festivals.
Oh.
Yeah, if you are living in the UK or just moved there, you should check out Balayet.uk. It's this really great community classifieds platform specifically for Nepalese in the UK.
I've heard of them. It's like a community board, right?
Exactly. It's super friendly, very community focused. If you're looking for a flat or trying to find a job and this is key, if you just want to find a local business that speaks your language, Balayet.uk is the spot.
That's a great tip.
It's a great resource, not a hard sell. So if you're heading to the Troxy or Wembley, maybe check it out.
It fits perfectly with the theme of the weak finding connection in a foreign land.
So let's wrap this up. We've covered a lot. From the stress of deportation flights and the remittance trap to the thrill of a Cricket World Cup against England. How do we synthesize this?
I think the takeaway is that the diaspora is flexing its muscles in every direction. Financially, you are sending home over ₹1 trillion. You are essentially keeping the economy afloat.
Right.
Culturally, you are filling stadiums in Mumbai and concert halls in London.
But there is a fragility to it.
There is. Legally and politically, there's still vulnerability. Whether it's the undocumented workers in the U.S. facing deportation and losing their life savings, or the nation waiting to see if the election next month will be safe and fair.
It's a mix of power and vulnerability.
Exactly. And here's a thought to leave you with. We have $22 billion in the bank. We have a cricket team on the world stage. We have a diaspora that is more successful and connected than ever.
We have the pieces.
Nepal has the resources and the spirit. The question is, can this upcoming election finally provide the political stability to match the potential of its people?
That is the $1 million question, or I guess the $1 trillion question.
Uh-huh.
And we will be watching closely. If you want to dive deeper into any of these stories, head over to nepalidiaspora.net.
You can read the full newsletter there and subscribe so you never miss an update. Knowledge is power, especially in weeks like this one.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Take care of each other.